Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to discuss how to stake your plants when it's time and what causes the need to have to stake your plants. Staking a plant is a fantastic way to recreate the desired shape of your plant. It also helps in kind of controlling its growth pattern so it doesn't grow too wild. If you love the wild look of your plant, you would probably only want to stake your plant if you ever see that it needs additional support. For this plant, I want to stake it for two primary reasons. One is support. As you can see, there are two stems here, and there's a pretty harsh lean to them. Over time, what's going to happen is as they continue to grow more of these beautiful petioles full of leaves, it'll become really top heavy, and the weight of all those leaves, it will bend or snap the stem, and that's something I absolutely want to avoid. The second reason is it's grown so far outward that it's starting to take up valuable square footage in the corner it sits in. And because it's imposing on other plants, people are running into it or walking into the plant, then that tells me it needs to be restaked. But certainly take a look at your plants, and if you see some that have grown so far out to the sides that it needs support, that's something you may want to consider. I also want to talk about what caused this plant to grow this way. Phenotype is the observational characteristics of your plant based on the consequence of its genetics, its environment, as well as random genetic variation. I could have a second plant propagated from this plant that would have the exact same DNA, and I could have one in a completely different environment where it's growing upright vertically. This plant, however, the environment has caused this gene expression where you see how severe the stems are kind of parting in the center and growing outward. That's because it was sitting in a corner where there are two windows. That is the plant trying to acclimate and adjust to its environment. So the gene expression has somewhat changed. And that's what makes our plants so wonderfully unique. We could have the same plant, but care for them differently and have different environments, and they could have different phenotypes. Staking is really easy. You can use a wide variety of materials that you have on hand. They can be as simple as bamboo skewers, tree branches, even old fencing or board. You'll also need some scissors and something to tie the plant with. There are a couple of things that I think about before I stake the plant. First thing is the type of plant that I have. How large am I going to allow it to become? For this particular plant, because it has three really beautiful stems, and they're about a ½ inch thick, I'm going to use a bamboo stake, approximately ½ inch. I want it somewhat hidden and blended amongst the foliage, so it's as discreet as possible. If I have a Monstera deliciosa, the stems are much thicker. So in that type of situation, I would use something that's a bit beefier and thicker. The plant tape that I have, it's about 1 inch thick. It's great for large plants. That needs a lot more support as it continues to grow. I also think about the height of the plant stick because I want it to blend in. Sometimes if I know I'm going to keep a plant a certain height, then I will go ahead and use a plant stake that's a little bit shorter than the tops of the stems. And again, that's to make it as discreet as possible so it's not protruding and sticking out above the foliage. Another example is where I do decide to use a taller stake. That's because if I know I have a plant that's growing quite rapidly and I want it to grow real tall, then I will pretty much stake for the future. That's possibly about 1 foot taller than the top leaf of the plant so that it will be able to grow into the size that I want it. I also think about what its current shape is and what's the desired shape that I want. I want all three to really be staked vertically so that they can grow upward. Yes, you're going to feel some crunching and snapping of some of its roots. Once you have your stake in the center, then I'm going to gently pull the first stem to it and then tie it at the top. Now I cut my plant tape because I only have 1 inch wide tape. With this size, I would use 1/2 inch wide plant tape. I was able to cut it down the middle. I'll share a link to what I use, but you don't have to use plant tape. Anything that's really going to hold the plant to the stake is all that you need. Now look how drastically that pulled the stem upright. Because of the tension of the stem, you can see that the plant stake is no longer perfectly vertical, but now has a lean. And I want it that way because now what's going to happen is as I draw these 2 stems to it, the tension of these 2 will center the plant stake again. I need a longer tie because it's not going to be right up against the stake. If I bend it too close to the stake, I think it's going to snap. That is it. Now you can move the leaves around if they're a little bit squished. Well, that wraps it up for me. If you like this video, hit that like button and subscribe. There's also a notification bell that will alert you when I release my next plant video. As always, I hope this was helpful for someone, and thanks so much for watching.